Welcome back to Webcertain TV. I'm Gemma Houghton. Today I'm joined by Ed Rusch, who heads the global marketing for Elemica, and we're going to talk about creating engaging and exciting content for a B2B audience. Hi Ed, thank you for being here.
No, it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. So obviously there is a kind of conception, I guess, that B2C content is very exciting and engaging and fun, and that B2B content is much more serious and dry. But of course, that's not necessarily the case or shouldn't be the case. How can B2B businesses address that?
Yeah, I think what you're touching on is something that is naturally and organically happening in the marketplace. We are a small but mighty supply chain operating network. We are a software technology company, and we enable about $500 billion worth of global commerce on an annual basis on our network. Though we're small, our customers are huge, multinational, multi-billion dollar industrial manufacturers, companies like Dow, DuPont, Michelin Tire.
Yeah.
And so those companies are big, they're distributed all throughout the globe. They are sort of the essence of B2B as it relates to what they do with Elemica on the supply chain side. And the buyers, the audience that we have for our products, are also consumers outside of their professional worlds, right? And so they're going to Amazon and buying their products. They're using Uber and other disruptive technologies for transportation, Airbnb, for example, as an alternative to hoteling, right? And these technologies are highly personalized. There's a lot of fantastic, responsive information, predictive type of elements to it that make the whole process of visibility into the service or product and the experience as a customer very delightful, full of information. It's really just a rich experience. Yeah. And so those same folks that are in charge of supply chain processes within these large global industrial manufacturers are saying, well, I can have visibility into those products that I've purchased on Amazon, or I can see the Uber car on the map as it's coming to pick me up. Why can't I see the same sort of level of information personalized to me across my global supply chain when it comes to millions of dollars worth of goods and products moving around the world? So from a consumer-driven audience, those folks who are consumers are also in charge of making those purchasing decisions within the supply chain. So that's driving the expectation that B2B has to also provide those same sort of experiences. So us as Elemica are really cognizant of that. And a lot of things we're doing from a marketing perspective is to deliver or adapt the appropriate B2C type of processes and B2C type of strategies and put them in place in a B2B world.
And with B2B products, obviously they tend to be more complex. They tend to be more in-depth maybe than consumer products, and the kind of level of information that buyers and the decision makers need is higher. So how do you balance making sure that that relevant, detailed, specific information is there, but making it engaging and accessible at the same time?
Well, I think you touch on definitely a challenge in our space. We're data rich, but information poor. Yeah. So there's lots and lots of data, but then that data needs to be translated into something that's insightful, so that it can be actionable and managed against. From a B2B marketing perspective, we need to adopt that same sort of level of targeting and specificity with the information and deliver it to the respective buyers depending on where they're at within their organization. So definitely you can't really do a lot of one-size-fits-all type of marketing content in our space. We're dealing with executive level centers of excellence. We're also dealing with specific functional organizational heads within specific supply chain areas of responsibility. There's the finance end, there are the technical people. And so their interest relative to the types of information that we can provide and the solutions that we can help in their daily lives is quite different depending on where they're at. And so from a marketing perspective, instead of a one-size-fits-all approach or trying to throw out a series of functionality bits that might resonate with the audience, we're really trying to answer their pervasive questions. And the pervasive questions that they have vary in those different roles. So we provide content and create content for the various buyers, answering the sort of the key pervasive questions that we see from those various elements of the organization that we interface with. And then we use different types of content as well. So I think a lot of B2B is reliant on large written word documents,
Yeah,
type
the
of
white
things,
paper.
and white papers and those.
Yeah.
And certainly there's a place for them. But we've really become marketing fashion forward in the B2B world, particularly in the supply chain space where we're at, by deploying visually rich infographics to tell the story. We do a lot of video. That's 10% of our marketing content mix. At Elemica, 3 to 4 years ago, you didn't see really any of the supply chain operating networks deploying a multimedia type of approach to answer those questions. Video gives that extra dimension into what makes that company tick,
Yep.
and the people within those companies that you'll never get on a document. Certainly blogs and all the other channels. And then you can create all that content, but then you just really have to be strategic about which content is relevant to the respective personas or buyers that you're targeting with the organization, and making sure that what we are presenting to them, again, is answering the questions that they have and specifically solving the types of problems that they're looking to solve.
And how do you make that decision as to which kind of content type you will deploy at that time? Because like you say, in a video, we know that is becoming really popular and people are consuming much more video content, as a consumer, but also in their work life. So, when do you decide that this will work well as a video, or actually, no, this really needs a white paper? How do you make that call?
I think we just really analyze and test based on what we have today. Mm-hmm. Look at what's performing well relative to the various audiences that we're communicating with, trying to understand where they are in that buyer's journey through to adopting a solution like ours, and really just taking a look at then those historical trends and grabbing those insights out of the analytics that we're able to grab in order to fine-tune our approach so that if it's working, do more of the stuff that's working until it proves otherwise, and then certainly if it's not working, then learn from that, move on and try some things different. Yes. And
then with a B2B product, often the buying cycle can be a longer period of time, certainly than we would expect for a consumer. So you developing that ongoing relationship, keeping that potential customer engaged with your content is really important to ultimately making the sale. So from a content perspective, how do you do that to make sure that they do keep returning to your site, that they stay engaged with you throughout that process?
Yeah, I think we're the quintessential example of that. Ours is not a widget type of B2B sale. It is a complex, big problem-solving solution that we're putting in place. There's a level of professional services and implementation that goes into it. We do have applications that are generally adaptable, but then there are certain nuances within some of our organizations that have to be accounted for as well. So we as a marketing team certainly are working to drive that buying process cycle down from beyond a year into at least within the year, and then certainly even get it down within the year into 6 months and whatnot. But a sale within hitting the top of the funnel through to a contract closed in 6 months would be considered fast for us. And so it's sort of back to what I was describing earlier, making sure you have a depth of content within your toolbox that you can access that speaks to, again, various parts of the predictable buying journey for the respective audiences. And then knowing the types of questions or the types of resources that are genuinely helpful for them each in those elements of the buying journey, and then just having a proper, effective mix so that folks that enjoy learning via video, like your audience would to this episode, has a video to consume. Other folks don't necessarily enjoy investing the time to necessarily watch a video and would rather, in a sort of a quiet moment, read through a more detailed, data-driven type of document. So just having a mix to an appropriate mix to help facilitate what it is they're trying to achieve. We're trying to create supply chain heroes or supply chain rock stars within our client base, and giving them the types of information to ensure
that.
that they can achieve that end goal is certainly what we're driving to.
So then you've got that information there, but they may not know, exactly where to find it. How do you kind of bringing them into the content in the first place? Do you use email? Do you use social? Which channels do you find are the most effective for that?
Well, we do have a mix there as well. And so we try to strategically use the various channels at our discretion, or at our disposal, I should say, based on, again, what we've sort of seen work. And then we also experiment and learn and try new channels as well. We do have marketing automation. Email is a important component and mix to our solution. I think what we found, though, is necessarily that the email in and of itself is something that's going to make or break the level of engagement, but it's really the quality of the email, the quality of the approach, and the type of content that you put in that email that actually makes the email work. The email in and of itself is just the delivery medium, right? And so I think one of the things that we're staying cognizant of is understanding, again, where they're at and making sure that what we're communicating is focused on them, their world, and what it is they're trying to achieve, as opposed to, chest pounding or we've got this really cool interface and it's all about Elemica. Let me show you how cool you are, and you're naturally just going to love it and buy it. And that's not going to lead to the types of success. So in email, it's really just focused on them. So we do a lot of account-based marketing. Our breadth of prospective customers isn't in the tens or hundreds of thousands. We are specifically in industrial manufacturing. We're specifically related to the supply chain. And so our audience scale or size from a count perspective is relatively intimate. So it gives us the luxury of really getting to know all our clients and our prospective clients, understand the various roles within the supply chain, and be able to really tailor messages to them.
So they feel like you're talking directly to them.
And individualizing. So email we use. We have events. We have, again, multimedia-rich content. So we spend a lot of time on SEO and finding pervasive sort of search terms that our folks are looking for when they go to Google, and then having them find us. I'm not... we have forums on our website. We have events, luncheons. So we have just a proper mix ultimately to keep our audience engaged through the, various ways that people prefer to be engaged, and really trying to meet them where they're at, as opposed to trying to apply one size fits all, because it's the path of least resistance for me. That doesn't work.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that with us today, Ed.
Okay, thank you.
To talk to you.
Really appreciate it.
Thanks.